familiar name here in Brent Tonisson. Now, Brent has been doing a trek around the world this season. Hailing from Australia, has played in multiple US and European events, traveling all over, making Pokemon his full-time endeavor, and it's been paying off so far. I think he's in the top 5 in earnings of all time, and this season for sure, I think he is the #1 earner in terms of prize money from players.
I think Yuho might have him just from getting $25,000 for winning the Latin America International Championships, but Brent is definitely not far behind, and he is the #1 player in championship points so far this season, just ahead of Owen Kammerman. And yeah, he's, like you said, been traveling across the world this season. We've seen him time and time again. He's gotten multiple top 8s, and most recently, he's coming off of a first-place finish at the Melbourne Regional Championships. You know, he travels around the world, but the one that he gets the big win, it does end up coming in his home country of Australia. And he also did get 2nd place at the Liverpool Regional Championships not too long ago. In this round, though, he will be going up against Daniel, who is playing that Rapid Strike Urshifu Inteleon Vmax.
I might actually be the biggest Lysander trump card hater. I'm not sure if Daniel is.
I think that's a pretty big club of Lysander's trump card haters. For those who don't know, it's a card from the Phantom Forces expansion years and years ago that inevitably got banned from the standard format just because of how powerful it was. A supporter card that allowed you to shuffle all of the cards from your discard pile back into your deck. Yeah, that ended up being a problem when you combined it with cards like Crushing Hammer and Hypnotoxic Laser at the time. These were not fun things to deal with, and Lysander's trump card eventually was not allowed to be played any longer.
Well, that's a good history lesson. We're here in the present. Daniel is playing that Rapid Strike Urshifu deck, another deck that we are sending a final hoorah for as we exit out of the format. Now, this is a very interesting matchup because Brent is really not going to want to play the standard way he wants with Comfey. Talk me through how he may want to set his board up to deal with a deck like Rapid Strike.
Yeah, we are probably going to see several turns of Abyss Seeking at the beginning of games. Usually we see that from Lost Tina anyway. It's not what they want to do, but it's what they end up having to do because that's, that's just how the deck works most of the time. But in this matchup, it's your genuine strategy. The Inteleon deck doesn't really have a great way to deal with a Giratina V super quickly. This deck is kind of damage capped. It can do 150 with a Gale Thrust, 140 with that Inteleon Vmax. You can spread some damage with that Double Gunner ability. But Brent is going to absolutely want to be very mindful of how many small, low HP Pokemon he puts into play.
Well, we've got a lot of dynamics to observe through this matchup. Be interesting to see who goes first or second. I feel like Giratina is probably okay to do either at this point.
Sure.
Obviously, as you said, Abyss Seeking on the first turn. One thing I also have my eyes on are, of course, the prize cards.
Yeah.
As the tension builds up, the winner of this match will be guaranteed a spot into Day 2. We do see the Spiritomb prized, a couple of supporter cards.
Yeah.
Spiritomb's not too relevant in this matchup. It is there for a deck that we put a lot of attention to, the Mew Vmax deck. It looks like we're going to have a good game, nothing too detrimental.
Yeah, the one path for Brent could be a little annoying. That's a pretty nice card to shut down the Double Gunner from the Inteleon Vmax. A bunch of supporters being prized for Daniel definitely could be a problem, as opposed to something like the Lost Zone Toolbox decks that have Comfey, Radiant Greninja, ways to draw a bunch of cards every single turn outside of your supporter. The Rapid Strike deck has Octillery. It gets you a Rapid Strike card. It's pretty good, but it's not drawing you a bunch of extra cards. So you are really depending on being able to play a supporter just about every single turn of the game. So we'll see if that ends up playing a factor in this one as we are getting underway, and it looks like Daniel will be going first.
Does open with that Medicham V into the active spot. And here we go. Getting things kicked underway. Round number 7 at the Vancouver Regional Championships. We do see this new Earthen Vessel card. A card that sort of has replaced Energy Search in this deck. Discarding cards from your hand, not always the best effect in a deck that doesn't really rely off of that, but it's more than enough for the cost of getting 2 Water Energy, which pairs great with that Double Gunner ability on the Inteleon Vmax.
Yeah, and honestly, putting cards in the discard pile can be a pretty good effect for certain decks. I mean, this is a deck that doesn't really mind discarding things like basic energy. You've got energy retrieval, you've got Clara, ways to get those energy cards back and interact with your discard pile, so it becomes almost a no cost at that point. And then there are also certain decks, Chien Pao likes to discard energies as well, so you can use superior energy retrievals. There are lots of ways that Earthen Vessel can be really powerful. So many people will look at the fact that you have to discard a card and be like, oh, that feels so painful. But in reality, many decks kind of enjoy having that added effect.
And wow, this hand is, you have the Squawk ability. It will be the choice off of this Ultra Ball, but a lot of critical pieces are going to hit the play or the discard pile. That second copy of Earthen Vessel already in the hand, so Daniel will not have a lot of ways to search water energies out. That's a very powerful effect to have. It will be the Squawk ability coming down, which inevitably means Squawk and Seize will be soon to follow.
Yes, a very powerful ability, but you can only use it on the first turn of the game. Losing that Octillery definitely could be bad for Daniel. We'll have to see if he's able to find another one on the next turn, as Remoraid does hit the hand here. And I think I saw a Battle VIP pass.
Oh, it's that play Pokemon from those Prize Series packs coming down into play. Yeah, I think as long as you find 3 Pokemon on this first turn, you're in a very solid spot. So we do see Urshifu come down into play, the Inteleon V hit the board, and then there is that Remoraid in the hand. And Rapid Strike Search, it's the cog that allows this deck to function.
Yeah, without a doubt, super important. We'll see that Remoraid be benched shortly, and I think there was an Ultra Ball in the hand as well, so that can guarantee the Rapid Strike Search on the next turn. Also a Research. Honestly, Daniel has a pretty strong hand here, even getting an energy attachment down to this Urshifu, and we will see that pass. Now, how does Brent Tonisson want to approach things? We'll find out very soon as he's starting with Battle VIP pass.
Checking through the deck, we'll see what pieces are available. Now, 2 notes. Stadium battle back and forth of having stadium control. With a Path to Peak prize, it's sort of offset, but you really never want to put Tower of Waters in play as the first stadium because of how crucial Double Gunner is, as well as how crucial it is to make sure that whatever you need to do is sort of functioning. You just really cannot be slowed down because the more time you give this Lost Tina deck, once it gets to 10 cards in the Lost Zone, they have a guaranteed knockout onto a Vmax Pokemon at any point during the game.
So that'll be important for Brent. How quickly can he achieve the 10 cards in the Lost Zone? And it'll take a little bit longer than normal because off this Battle VIP pass, a pair of Giratina have been grabbed. No Comfey going down onto the bench. So Brent definitely aware that he needs to adjust his strategy for this matchup. This matchup can be a little difficult for Giratina if you give your opponent a lot of easy targets. But if Brent plays around the fact that his opponent could use Gmax Rapid Flow, Double Gunner, could use the Yoga Loop on that Medicham V. If he can play around all those pieces effectively, I think he'll be in a solid spot.
Speaking of solid, Culver's a great way to follow this turn up. Now, this is a little bit tough. You got a lot of pieces you want. That is sort of the downside of Culver's experiment. You got to get them away to the Lost Zone.
Yeah, you don't... It looks like we are going to see the Super Rod and the Psychic Energy go down. I was going to say, you don't really need to be too concerned with, keeping those energy recovery cards around quite as much as you normally would in some other matchups. We're not going to see as much pivoting, retreating energies off. There's no Radiant Greninja in play at the moment, so you can kind of afford to lose those pieces that are normally really important. And it is indeed going to be the Abyss Seeking here on turn 1 thanks to Jet Energy.
Pretty textbook start. And a great follow-up for next turn. Let's see what Daniel can put together at this spot. Had to get rid of a pretty sizable amount of resources, but it looks like this follow-up is more than solid. Ultra Ball in the hand, getting rid of this Professor's Research, and that last card, Iono, will shuffle. Brent's large hand had a lot of great resources. That Giratina V-Star in the hand, Colress, those switch cards, all of these cards extremely key at playing around the math number, especially not as much the pivoting effect of that switch card, but just the fact that it heals 30 damage. It's crazy to think that the effective potion has sort of been upgraded throughout time. Now you get to switch and heal your Pokemon up a little bit.
Exactly. Yeah, the Iono here, a really solid play from Daniel. You could have gone with the research and drawn one additional card, but recognizing, hey, my opponent just used Abyss Seeking. Not only do they have a decent amount of cards in hand, but they got to hand pick 2 of them and add them to their hand. They also just played a Colress, so they hand picked 3 of them, those specific cards. So you know that your opponent has seen a lot of different options and hand picked exactly what they wanted to do. So Iono Disruption seems really good.
Rapid Strike Search to follow. We'll search through the deck. Is that Rapid Strike Urshifu as the choice? So this is sort of where we go down sort of this roadmap of what attacks does Daniel want to put on to these active Pokemon on Brent's side. Will we see the Gale Thrust this turn? I believe there's another Rapid Strike Energy in the hand.
That would be pretty costly. discarding 2 Rapid Strike energies in order to use Gmax Rapid Flow. I think just a Gale Thrust would be okay, but oh my goodness, we are going to see the committal of those extra energy cards, and it is the Gmax Rapid Flow. Gotta say, I'm a little surprised to see this be the option for Daniel.
Maybe valuing just the amount of pressure that's put onto this Giratina V, especially if you can follow it up with another Gmax Rapid Flow the following turn, it's Melanie true, plus true. Rapid Strike Search to find the Rapid energy.
Yeah, it could clean up Brent's board pretty quickly, and Brent, forced to put a Comfey into play, needs to try to make something happen. We're going to see this flower selecting after the Jet Energy brings it to the active.
Yeah, not much going on in the hand, and not much to assist either. Battle VIP Pass, a good card to put away, but it is just going to be the retreat into this Giratina. And hold on, Chip, a door now opened up. If Daniel can put together a play to knock out both of these Giratina V, yeah, of course you're discarding 3 of your Rapid Strike energies, but it is at the cost of a huge momentum swing and a 4-prize turn.
And you know what? Daniel already has it guaranteed. Had the Melanie in the hand at the end of last turn, can pretty easily play that supporter card. Another one that's going to rotate out of the standard format, get that extra energy attached, draw a few cards, and we don't see the Rapid Strike energy, but that is no problem thanks to the Octillery waiting on the bench.
We're going to see it, Chip, a 4-prize turn, and this is just the 4th turn. This is just the 3rd turn of the game right here.
It's pretty crazy to see that this is gotten so aggressive on Daniel's end. Now, taking 4 prize cards is really strong, but Brent can pretty quickly respond with a Roxanne, and that is something that Daniel probably should take a moment and think about. But honestly, like, this is just going to decimate Brent's board. Brent is not going to have hardly anything set up and is going to need to find that 3rd and final copy of Giratina V as well.
Yeah, but a key card there found for Daniel did find that Forest Sealstone, so
yeah,
even if a Roxanne comes out, Brent's not playing any way to remove that Forest Sealstone, and since there's no threat here, there we go, 4-prize turn, both Giratina V falling. Daniel Brunner down to just 2 prize cards left on the 3rd turn of the game.
We'll see what Brent Tonisson can piece together. A few Mirage Gate in the hand, that's not really useful. You don't want to put too many energy cards on your Comfeys. It can be nice to get some retreat options, so we will see that be played. But yeah, Brent is not even going to be able to really do too much this specific turn, probably just ending with a Cramorant most likely, and hoping to find a Giratina V.
Only 1 left in the deck. You've only got those Nest Balls as ways to search out your Giratina. Does also have Path to the Peak, so
that's pretty good.
It's a very good disruption ability.
Does not shut off the Forest Sealstone, however. Will turn off the Double Gunner, which is nice, but Forest Sealstone, like you pointed out, Ethan, is going to be a pretty quick and easy response for Daniel to get whatever piece he wants, depending on what he draws into. And of course, not only can he get any card he wants off the Forest Sealstone, he can get any Rapid Strike card he wants thanks to Octillery.
So shuffling in, Brent will get 6 cards, Daniel just 2, but it was more than worth the cost of getting disrupted at this point. So the question here, what can Brent put together? Does find that Nest Ball, and that is the big card to find. Giratina V can come into play, and we've seen comebacks from this Giratina deck. It feels like that's what it excels at, is starting out behind. Maybe you have to Abyss Seeking the first few turns, really just not do much, but Path Roxanne, tried and true combo in the standard format currently.
Yeah, some people think that's the true combo. Some people think it's a lie. We'll see what ends up happening as this game is getting down to the final stages. Brent still has quite a few things to do this turn. We're going to see that flower selecting, losing the Radiant Greninja with Path in play. Its value goes down quite a bit, so definitely want to value the Sableye over that. And we are going to see the retreat, and it looks like another flower selecting. What could Brent be digging for? And it actually looks like the answer is nothing, because we are going to see the retreat and Spit Innocently, and the counter catcher to get rid of the Octillery. That is a massive find here for Brent. It'll take him 1 prize card, but also take away Daniel's main consistency engine.
Yeah, with how things stood, Forest Sealstone plus the Rapid Strike Surge could find the Stadium out to allow you to retreat and the Rapid Strike energy. But now, because there's only 1 Rapid Strike energy in play, it's going to be very hard to find that resource, which all these Pokemon really need to attack in a pretty efficient manner. So here we go. Forest Sealstone used that Star Alchemy V-Star power.
And I think for Daniel, this could be pretty awkward because he doesn't have a Professor's Research in the deck. He has 2 copies in his list. We saw 1 hit the discard pile earlier, and the second copy is in his final 2 prize cards. So while Forest Sealstone can get him any one thing that he would want, something like Research would be so good to be able to just discard your hand and fill it back up with 7. He doesn't have that play available.
And lots of choices. We could see Clara grab the water energies back, but then you're not attacking that turn.
Exactly.
It looks like it will be a card in here only because it could be Rapid Strike Search. It is that Karina's Focus, a pretty subpar supporter card, but it's worth it when you have Octillery set up. And just saying, look, I don't have the ability to reestablish Octillery efficiently. I'm going to bench this Radiant Alakazam and maximize my draws. What do we see off of this? We do see a water energy, but no Rapid Strike energy. This Inteleon is now stuck in the active spot, and with Brent having a Giratina V down and a pretty solid amount of Lost Zone cards, or rather cards in the Lost Zone, things could get very scary here if something like this Rapid Strike Urshifu is unchecked. That is another threat, though. Of course, now having no bench Pokemon, there is no Manaphy in Brent's list, so lots of factors to think about. Brent is not out of this by any means, though.
Definitely not out of it, but it really, at this point, with that energy being attached to the Urshifu, is just going to be a waiting game. You know, how long does it take for Daniel to find a Rapid Strike energy? He will also need to find a way to retreat his active, so maybe Brent could work out something like, you know, a Sableye play, let that be the attacker. He is able to find a Mirage Gate here. Also, Brent at some point could potentially find Counter Catcher in order to bring up that Urshifu and use the Star Requiem V-Star power to just knock it out. It looks like it will be a Sableye angle for now, as Mirage Gate does get the energy attached to it. Now, what are we going to see Brent target down here? It is quite the road back into this game.
I think Brent will probably try and set up a knockout on the Squawkabilly and also put this Inteleon in Lost Impact range. If he can do that, potentially even putting the Urshifu into Lost Impact range. The only downside is it's really not worth it to Star Requiem to take a knockout onto this Inteleon because you don't want to give the free pivot to this Rapid Strike Urshifu.
Right, yeah, I think he wants this Inteleon to be stuck active for as long as possible. And we do see the Pokegear finding a Roxanne after Daniel just filled the hand back up. Roxanne in a future turn could be really strong to limit that again. Actually, no, just this turn has not even played a supporter yet, so we will still be able to see the Roxanne be utilized here, countering the fact that Daniel just found the supporter card last turn.
And this game has flipped completely upside down. This is what happens when you have to go through a lot of your supporter cards and you don't have the flexibility of Octillery. There's nothing like Jirachi in here to prevent against Lost Mine. So here we go. Big 2 cards. Let's see how this goes out. Sableye can target a whole bunch of different Pokemon, but it's really going to be on what Daniel can find from these 2 cards from Roxanne. If Sableye can just fire off Lost Mines over and over again, then that can be a completely game-winning strategy.
Yeah, Brent is going to want to think about his prize map here a little bit. There's a few options with 5 prize cards remaining. You could target down the 1 Radiant Alakazam and then 2 prize Pokemon. You could target down 1 single 2 prize Pokemon and then aim to just finish the game by KOing a 3 prize Pokemon. So he's starting off by targeting down a 2 prize Pokemon, and we'll see where it goes from there.
Found Melanie off the Roxanne, but nothing off of those 3 cards drawn. Another battle VIP pass. There's 3 of those
VIP pass.
In the hand.
Oh my goodness! Yeah,
I bet you Daniel's thinking, oh, come on, can this card just like be out of the format so I don't have to have my hand clogged up by these? And it's just going to be a pass back over. Brent can now take essentially a free 2 prize cards on this Medicham, and then Star Requiem can clean up any VMAX Pokemon. Daniel maybe put on a 1-turn clock to see if he can take these final 2 prize cards.
It's definitely true, and Brent actually does have Boss's Orders in his hand currently, and with the energy card being attached to this Inteleon this last turn, I would not hate to see Boss's Orders try to stick something else in the active spot, and Radiant Alakazam is a great choice. This card is so powerful in the Urshifu deck, but it also can be a little bit of an Achilles heel. It is really difficult to move if your opponent can do something like this and try to stick it active for a few turns.
So here we go. We're going to see the Lost Mine. We'll see 2 damage counters put onto this Radiant Alakazam.
Yeah.
Does put it in Cramorant range, so smart line, and then just throwing that last damage counter onto the Rapid Strike Urshifu Vmax, and we just got ourselves a game here. There is nothing that can be played in this hand. Pokemon Devolution.
Just a pass.
Wow, not what you want to see at all. Brent has just been able to have this Lost Mine Sableye sit in the active and place damage counters wherever he so pleases.
Yeah, and Brent can set up a win in just a couple of turns. You can target down the Squawkabilly with the Lost Mine and set it up so you can knock out both the Squawkabilly and the Alakazam, but no, is going to choose to try to get through the deck a little bit more, wants to reestablish things. What do you think he's looking for right here by using the Flower Selecting?
Well, Brent can win this turn if he can find boss's orders and
it's true, if he finds his last boss,
Requiem onto one of these benched Vmax Pokemon and has that Pokegear in the hand. So if Brent can sequence everything, he's going to play the Super Rod, put just the one Psychic Energy in the deck, and there is a boss's orders. How many cards are there? It looks like there's 9 cards in this hand.
Pretty high odds to just close it out here.
And I think it's actually 100% guaranteed because Switch Cart can put into this Comfey, Flower Selecting can bring him down to just a 7-card deck, and then Pokegear is guaranteed to hit this boss's orders. Let's see if he does this.
He's going for the Pokegear first. Let's see if he just hits and just closes things out. He doesn't hit.
Didn't he have it? I'm pretty sure he has it retreated.
I don't know if
he retreated
has
the Sableye. My bad.
Yeah,
so
he's
the
already
Sableye
retreated for
this
turn.
Okay. So, wow, an unfortunate miss there in the bottom 2 cards of the deck.
He could still win, though. There is Counter Catcher in his deck still. 5 cards off the Colress, and there is the Counter Catcher, but I guess there is no Switch Cart.
I think he has this. Oh, he has the Switch Cart in hand.
Okay,
yeah,
he's
there.
Got it. Yeah, Switch Cart. Even Brent, taking a moment there, does realize he has the win. Counter Catcher brings up any of the VMAX Pokemon, and that Star Requiem V-Star power able to take the KO. What a comeback from Brent in that game.
That's what Giratina does best. Path, Roxanne. You can think it's a lie. I think the numbers, the stats show right here. Look at the match and tell me what you think at home. But that's what you have to do in this matchup. You understand that it's sort of a trap against this Giratina deck. Giratina sort of tempts you with that. They say, look, I'm doing nothing. My start is so slow. Come on, take these knockouts. Put yourself down to 2 or 3 prize cards. And I mean, this was an incredible tempo play. I mean, we don't see many decks take 4 prize cards on the 3rd turn of the game. But I really have to wonder, that second Rapid Strike energy putting this Pokemon into play. I feel like if the Water Energy was there, maybe this play makes a little bit more sense, but without Rapid Strike Search and with only having 1 Rapid Energy in your deck, it becomes very hard to pull off attacks when you're getting hand disrupted and when your artillery is also getting targeted.
Yeah, and this was the start of the comeback for Brent. The Roxanne plus the Counter Catcher getting rid of that artillery, super key, and then yeah, this Alakazam being stuck in the active, the turns previous, the Inteleon being stuck in the active, Brent was able to just set things up pretty nicely and gave himself a pretty good shot to win this game here with the Pokegear, finding that Counter Catcher, and was able to just close things out thanks to Giratina V-Star.
Game 2 underway. I mean, that felt like a long match, but really didn't take too long of time, so hey, look, we see how fast the Rapid Strike deck goes. We see sort of how methodical the Giratina deck can be towards the end. This could be anybody's game, and Brent is more than happy to take a few mulligans. We'll take a look and see what these prize cards look like for Brent. I was very happy to have that 3rd Giratina V. Could have been a completely different game. I feel like on stream, we always see those Giratina V end up in the prize cards.
They love to hang out in the prize cards. Maybe they, you know, equate that to the distortion world a little bit, right? Think that's where they belong, but no, we want Giratina to be in the deck. We want it to come out to play and be a part of the game itself. Daniel did have to mulligan, had no basic Pokemon in his opening hand, so he's going to have to reshuffle that deck and hopefully find a basic Pokemon here. He would have not minded to keep that hand. I did notice 2 Battle VIP pass in it. That's always a little bit of a, you know, a fist shake moment. Oh, why couldn't I have just started with this? But it's how it works, and we'll see if he can still find one as he has now gotten a basic.
Daniel will be going first again. We do see 2 of those Grass Energy in the prize cards, so only having 1 does have one of those Rapid Strike Energy prized. I think we're going to have another good game, Chip. So let's get down to the table. Game number 2 between Dan and Brent. And oh, this hand is 4 supporter cards that cannot be played. And this is going to be a costly Ultra Ball at this point. Does have the Forest Seal Stone, so the big question is, do you use that this early? We saw how beneficial it was after the Roxanne, but is it worth that trade-off of having a better board early compared to having some protection later on in the game?
Yeah, that's the big question here that Daniel has to ask. It would be nice to just go get a Battle VIP pass and get yourself fully set up. And he may still choose to do that. we'll see if Daniel maybe has a bit of a strategy adjustment as well. I wouldn't hate for Daniel to take a moment and think about how that game one went and think, maybe I need to slow it down on my prize card taking a little bit. I mean, there's nothing forcing you to knock out those Giratinas, right? You could just kind of poke them with your Inteleon Vmax or Urshifu, whatever it may be, and then set up for maybe a more powerful multi-prize turn later on. We'll see how things adjust, though, for Daniel. And he is grabbing the Squawk ability right away.
Yeah, looks like, again, a very costly Squawk and Seize on turn one. We're going to see 4 supporter cards hit the discard pile, and we saw how much Dan wanted those at the end of the game, and just because so many went through, because so many were in the prize cards, did not have access to that, but really going to be looking to find some basic Pokemon. Does have the bailout of at least having the 4 Sealstone, but these are going to be a big 6 cards. Urshifu V, but that's it when it comes to Pokemon.
No Remoraid. Yeah, the Remoraid is the big one you hope to find here. So is it going to be worth popping that Forest Sealstone to go get a Remoraid into play this turn? Looks like the answer is going to be yes.
There it is, Star Alchemy. You'll find the Battle VIP Pass, and Remoraid is the given. There is that option for a second Pokemon to come into play.
Yeah, probably just another Inteleon V. Seems pretty solid. Don't mind having a few of those set up. You can threaten the Double Gunner pretty quickly. Brent, on the other end, did start the Sableye. Honestly, Sableye, it does have 1 retreat. You know, you can move it around, but it's a pretty annoying starter. It clogs up your board in the early game. You really don't want to see it come into play until you've got those 10 cards in the Lost Zone. So, you know, Comfey and Sableye may look similar to some, but Sableye is not the one that you want to be putting into play early in the game.
And finding that water energy there, as long as you're getting an energy drop onto that Urshifu, that is important. Rapid flow without taking prize cards, I think that's a very solid strategy, and I like. Daniel's still going for that early, but maybe not as aggressively, might be a little bit.
Yeah, maybe not when you're giving up 2. The big thing was that he gave up 2 Rapid Strike energy to do that.
Yeah. Did put those water energy in the discard pile. Now, it is sort of a double-edged sword, right? You can get that off energy retrieval, but you can't really draw into them. You're going to have a lot less outs finding your water energy. So we'll see Giratina V get grabbed, and it is the Radiant Greninja this time, so maybe signaling a little bit weaker of a hand on Brent's side, may not have a supporter card, or maybe many ways to move the Sableye out. Looks like, yeah, just a bunch of energies.
Yeah, don't see much there.
I think there may be a Jet Energy, so as long as you're using Abyss Seeking, that's great, but you'd like to also be playing your Colossus Experiment, slowly building your way up to the top, up to those 10 cards in the Lost Zone.
Yep. Shuffling the deck now. We'll be able to use the Radiant Greninja to draw a couple. Probably hoping for a Colress here. That would be nice. Needs to find a way to get Giratina active. We'll see if there is a Jet Energy in the hand. I do see one, so that is good. And concealed cards can draw a couple. Hoping to find some Colress options, and that's a couple of Giratina. Honestly, getting another Giratina is not too bad, but maybe we'll see the adjustment from Brent not putting 2 Giratina in play right away so that we don't see a repeat of game number 1, because that did put on a lot of pressure.
Yeah, the only downside to doing this is if your opponent plays something like Iono, that can be tough. And these are...
Yeah, you got Nest Ball, you got plenty of time. Yeah. Lots of ways to get more Giratinas in play in the future.
It does have to throw that Boss's Orders away, but had to value keeping that Switch card and the course. And you see Daniel showing that top card.
Yeah, it would have been nice the previous turn. Yep. Didn't quite have it, though. And is able to play the Iono. That is solid, especially after having to discard so many supporters to start the game off. Looking for the Rapid Strike energy or the Octillery, and was at least able to find the Rapid Strike energy so we can see an attack be pulled off this turn. And with no path to peak in play, we also can see that Double Gunner put some pressure onto these lower HP Pokemon on the bench.
You know, damage on the Greninja is nice. It puts it in Gmax Rapid Flow range. Sableye, you can eventually Yoga Loop it as well,
yeah,
so
exactly.
It's not too bad. So here we go. Gmax Spiral, 140 damage onto Giratina V. Brent did find that Colress after being Iono'd, so we'll build this Lost Zone up to 4-6 if he decides to use Abyss Seeking at the end of this turn. But this is where it's tough, is you can Abyss Seeking build your Lost Zone up, but you're pretty much surrendering 2 prize cards to your opponent.
That's what you got to do. You know, I mean, Giratina is a come-from-behind deck at the end of the day, right? You've got all these counter catchers, the Iono, or Roxanne's, excuse me, all in this list, and Brent was able to find another Giratina V, so that is pretty strong. Isn't going to be pressured by having both of his Giratinas wiped out, and also Path to the Peak is pretty nice to put into play, and caps it all off with an Abyss Seeking to increase the size of the Lost Zone once again.
we'll see Path and Jet Energy.
The other options were Jet Energy and a Counter Catcher. So I think it makes sense. It definitely hurts to lose both of those cards. You do enjoy having access to both of them, but Counter Catcher is pretty important. I mean, we saw how massive that was for Brent in game number 1.
Yeah, playing a pretty unconventional counts. Most players usually play a total of 3 gusting cards, so whether that's 2 Counter Catcher and a boss or 2 boss and a Counter Catcher. Brent's playing 4 total gusting cards.
Right. Yeah, that little extra aggression. I like having the 2 boss because you're not always losing, and it can let you close out the game at the end. And I also, of course, like having 2 Counter Catcher because you often are losing to start the game off. So it gives you plenty of options. So yeah, Brent is really kind of stuck with this like 58, 59 cards of this 60 card list for the last few tournaments. I mean, it's paid off for him. He won the Melbourne Regional Championships with the Giratina deck. We've seen him have deep runs at multiple other events with this archetype. And he's looking to make that happen here in Vancouver as well.
Squawk and seizing away that Octillery early on, actually coming to benefit Daniel here. Can play this Clara, grab that Octillery back, and finally, Rapid Strike Search is online. We've seen both abilities now get used. There is already a Rapid Strike Energy in the hand, so we could see this grab one of those Inteleon Vmax or that Rapid Strike Urshifu. Because of that Rapid Strike Energy.
Yeah, I kind of like grabbing the Inteleon Vmax here. You've already got so many basic energy in your hand, especially because Clara just added 2 more to your hand as well in order to get the Octillery back. So get value from the double gunner while you can before your opponent puts another Path to the Peak into play. And that Sableye is now really close to being KO'd.
So there it is, second double gunner ability. Guaranteed. Brent just giving away some information here. Sometimes these players like to shuffle their hand up a little bit, get a little bit antsy at the table, but can't let your nerves get the best of you. You're at 5-0-1. You're in a great spot here to get into day 2 of the regional championships. And here's the choice now for Daniel. Do you take a knockout onto this Giratina V? This is, again, playing around Roxanne. This first knockout, I think, is okay, but you've got to really, in your head, navigate how am I taking these last prize cards? Can I yoga loop and take knockouts? What can I do so I can try and play around Roxanne to the best of my ability?
Yeah, and I like this. Not taking the knockout, set it up so you can do something next turn, or in the future maybe, you know, use the escape rope you have and then double gunner to KO the Giratina. Use something like the Radiant Alakazam to KO it. You know, to try to take multiple prizes in a turn, similar to what he did in the last game. Yeah, we'll see exactly how he approaches things. I definitely want to see him try to play around the Roxanne. Take 2 prizes, hold off on taking the next one until maybe you can piece together a 4-prize turn. That's really what you like to do with this Urshifu deck.
All 3 cards in Daniel's hand is just water energies. Just has 3 water energies to work with, so maybe you bluff a little bit. You're like, yeah, my hand's good. I got 3 cards, but size is not in the numbers. What can Brent do? Now, Brent has had a few turns to build this hand up. We have seen Abyss Seeking plus 2 Colruses in a row. So there's lots of resources, and now up to 8 cards in the Lost Zone.
Yep.
So Mirage Gate is online. And what will Brent do with this turn? We could have seen Brent, if he had the Giratina V-Star, go in and maybe Lost Impact that, but that can be risky when your opponent showed that they play that Professor Turo scenario, which can essentially act as a way to just heal one of your Pokemon up. It would be at the cost of discarding a Rapid Strike energy, but that seems like a good trade-off in my mind.
Yeah, not too bad at all.
Here's the concealed cards, and does find the Nest Ball. So what is Brent looking for to get into play? And it is going to be a Comfey.
Yeah, wants to dig a little bit more with this. Has so many cards in the hand currently.
Yeah, so I think this will actually put Brent up to 10 cards in the Lost Zone.
And we're going to see that Sableye be pulled off this turn and will be able to target down, I assume, the Octillery. You know, getting that out of play is pretty important. The Urshifu deck's power level just decreases so much when it doesn't have access to Rapid Strike Search every single turn.
So let's see.
And also, this will be a switch cart being played, which will heal up this Giratina, making it a little more difficult for Daniel to pick up the KO. He should still be able to piece something together. But yeah, this is going to get 9 cards in the Lost Zone. Choosing to get rid of that Colress might feel painful, but in favor of keeping Path to the Peak, that is another card Brent would really like to play this turn, especially because he has the knowledge at least one of the cards in his opponent's hand is a basic water energy.
Lots of costly Lost Zone choices, but you've got to value some cards over the other. It's the nature of this Lost Zone deck. As magic number 10 achieved for Brent. Lost mine online. We saw how great it was to get Octillery out of play in game 1. Brent's going to do the exact same thing and even can evolve this Giratina V up into a V-Star, adding 100 HP to this Pokemon, putting it up to 280. So that will now get a 60 HP boost, and we'll just see that last damage counter put onto this Urshifu V. Brent Tonisson, the one to take the lead in this matchup.
Hey, that's not a bad top deck, though, for Daniel. Did find the Karina's Focus. It's not a great supporter, right? Like you mentioned in game number 1, it's only in here because you can search it off of the Rapid Strike search. But, hey, it's better than 3 basic Water Energy. He'll at least be able to draw some cards, and after attaching a Water Energy somewhere, will be able to draw even more.
Yeah, and the 60 damage on this Sableye is really awkward, to be honest. And we see actually not attaching this energy card because there might be a chance to maybe Yoga Loop this turn and put in a little bit more value rather than essentially wasting 3 of your double gunner targets onto something that you're just going to knock out for 140 regardless.
And this is a situation where if Daniel didn't have to flip the V-Star marker on turn 1 of the game, it would be really nice to have the answer to that. You know, your Octillery just got KO'd. Now you have the perfect response by being able to get any one card to get yourself reestablished. But Daniel was forced to use that in the early turn of the game in order to get his board set up so that we could get to at least this point.
Now the choice. What do you want off of this Ultra Ball? The scary thing here is if you put another Emerald into play, your opponent could have just something like Super Rod to put Sableye back and target that down while maybe putting pressure on your Vmax Pokemon to be in range of something like Lost Impact. But you see this deck really struggles to function without Octillery.
Yeah.
It's got to be Daniel's priority, and it will be the choice off this Ultra Ball.
Yeah, gotta try to reestablish it, and then obviously the Sableye will be going down with this play from Daniel. Feels bad to waste a little bit of the damage, right? 60 damage that's been built up on the Sableye, not really being able to maximize the potential of what it could be, but you are able to return this energy, which means if you can find, say, a Tower of Waters next turn, we could see Yoga Loop come into play maybe onto one of these Comfeys if Daniel can pull some stuff off with a Radiant Alakazam and some double gunner plays.
We'll see how everything progresses out. Brent will start things off with a Chorus's Experiment. So I believe that may actually be the last copy of Chorus, as one did hit the Lost Zone.
Yeah, it's true. I think that is correct. Yeah, that adds up to 3 here. Plenty of switch cards. Also the Counter Catcher. Counter Catcher's not live right now, and so Brent is going to choose to get rid of that. That's normally something that can be really powerful moving forward, but I think Brent is recognizing he's potentially going to jump ahead here in the next few turns and might have a hard time utilizing that card.
And this is great. Can do it with a pretty much fresh Giratina V-Star rather, not in range of anything like Devolution to knock it out, not in range of anything to take a one-hit knockout.
I do think he needs to find the V-Star. I'm not sure there was one in the hand.
Wow.
And he is able to hit it off of the flower selecting, massive to find. And this will be that Star Requiem coming out, V-Star power. You only get to use 1 a game, and this is one of the best in the entirety of the game. Just taking a KO on whatever your opponent's active Pokemon is, and in this position, getting Brent 3 prizes.
And that Squawk ability on the bench is looking primed to be the final 2 prize cards Brent will need to secure this, filling the bench up, playing the cards out, and there it is, Star Requiem knocking out Inteleon Vmax. Brent Tonisson 2 prize cards away from locking a spot up in day 2 here in Vancouver.
Daniel is going to promote the Urshifu, needs some help. The draw for turn was another Rapid Strike energy, not super strong. You already have one in hand, but can play the Arven here, getting any item card and any tool card out of the deck.
Looks like there are some Devolution at this point, so can find that Technical Machine item card. It's not going to do much here.
Nah.
Of course, not going to be able to knock out that Giratina V-Star. It is just out of range on the bench.
But it can become discard fodder. You know, it's not useful in this matchup, so you can discard it with the Ultra Ball that was grabbed, and this can re-establish the Octillery. Is actually going to choose to get the Urshifu. Was the other Octillery in the deck?
Sure.
Normally you'd like to just get the Octillery because then the Octillery can find the Urshifu, right?
Yeah,
right after.
Exactly. And this could be Daniel maybe feeling some of the pressure here and just thinking, you know what? My back's kind of against the wall here. I really don't know what to do because even with a Gmax Rapid Flow here, you're still at worst staring down a Giratina V-Star that can throw off another attack, and Brent has a massive hand. just needs a few pieces to close the game out on the following turn. It's just up to Daniel. What do you do here? We'll see Medicham V come down.
I mean, Daniel can win the game next turn if Brent doesn't win this turn.
Yeah.
He's going to damage the active Giratina and then knock out the one on the bench. He's going to go down to 3 prize cards left. If he can find Melanie and Urshifu next turn, but not going to get a next turn. Brent Tonisson has the energy and the boss's orders to KO either the Medicham or that Squawkabilly EX on the bench, and Brent Tonisson locks up a spot in day 2 with a 6-0-1 record.
Playing tried and true, it's the deck he won a regional championship with Giratina